Function with Purpose podcast. All things health, wellness, fitness, and education through the physical therapy perspective. I am Dr. Amy Bullock, owner and founder of Fortress Physical Therapy. Fortress PT is here to serve the Charlotte metro area by highlighting the importance of how and why physical therapy should be a part of your health and wellness lifestyle. Here we go. Welcome to Season 9, Episode 1 of the Function with Purpose podcast. This is Dr. Amy coming at you today on this lovely day. Perhaps you're driving in your car on the way to work, drinking that coffee. Season 9. Starting off with a pretty hot topic. I think something that patients and the public in general don't have a lot of education under their belt regarding this. So, getting right into it, how soon is too soon for physical therapy after an acute injury? So, maybe an example of an acute injury might be a wrist sprain, an ankle sprain. Maybe you rolled your ankle while playing soccer, or maybe you injured your knee and actually tore your ACL. So this is going to lead into a little story of mine with a still current patient, and retelling the story. I did tell the story a little while back, but in my eyes, of course I'm going to be extremely biased, it is never too soon for physical therapy after one sustains an injury or a tweak or a niggle or a reoccurring issue. But we have to, as the patient, we have to recognize, is this something that is truly an emergency? Does this need direct, immediate medical attention? And just on the flip side, something of that nature might be maybe your kid fell from a tree and broke their arm. Like, oh my gosh, that is a medical emergency. Like, they got to go to the emergency room, possible surgery, right? I'm not talking that type of medical attention acute injury. So more so along the lines of a sprain, a muscle strain, maybe TMJ issues, maybe something happened and the jaw locked up, or even a recurrent frequent bout of headaches that just came along suddenly. That's totally an acute issue that can be addressed by a physical therapist. So let me just kind of retell this story. And if you're one of those individuals that might be on the fence, especially if you can relate to this story, I think we need to start thinking of how to care for our health, wellness, fitness, and recovery pathways and who that we can turn to and trust. And a physical therapist can be that person. A physical therapist can be that person to hold the sparkle pager and be that individual on speed dial. So, leading into my story, a while back, probably at the beginning of summer, or towards the latter portion of spring, one of my athletes, and hopefully she'll listen to this, but she was completing the CrossFit Open, and on the last week of the last open workout, she did awesome, fantastic. And then she went to work and was practicing with her lacrosse players. She's a women's lacrosse coach here locally in at Winthrop University area, and she went to jump in on a practice play and performed a non-contact move, meaning, no one hit her or anything, and she planted her foot and changed movements and immediately had knee pain, fell to the ground, and was in pain. So after that happened that Friday morning, she called me probably about 2 hours later and was like, can I see you for PT? I'm pretty sure I tore my ACL. The athletic trainer said there's probably a strong possibility. I'm freaking out, so a lot of emotions that are going on. So we FaceTime each other, and I was like, okay, can you get here by like 2 p.m.? Because I had a full patient caseload that day. So she came in, and we immediately started doing treatment. I did an assessment on her. Did kind of, the ACL assessment, and it was hard to tell. But I could visually see her right quad muscle, or her thigh, become a little bit smaller than her non-affected leg. And that is an indication as well, when the quad muscle kind of atrophies per se. There's a strong correlation that there might be knee ligament ACL concern. So she, explained what happened and all that, and I did my assessment. And I'm like, well, there definitely could be ACL, MCL, there could be meniscus. It's very hard to tell, but right now this is what we have to do. We have to control the inflammation, right? This just happened 2.5 hours ago, and your knee is swollen. It's hard to weight bear. You're limping, and of course there's pain, right? So I immediately, honestly, I dry needled her thigh. I dry needled around the knee joint on a specific setting in order to help create a pump locally to that joint. So as we were doing this passive modality of electrical dry needling, I'm explaining the process to her. Like, okay, it could be ACL. This is the pathway that you'll most likely walk down. We need to find a good orthopedist who most likely specializes in ACL repair or rehab type deal, and really understands the knee joint and sports. As well as, in addition, continuing physiotherapy and controlling the controllables. So she understood that, and immediately, a couple days later, after the swelling kind of went down and she was able to, weight bear a little bit better, sought out sports medicine ortho, and got an image, and it was confirmed that there was an ACL tear. So our next step was, of course, her and I are staying in close communication. We're texting back and forth. We're FaceTiming. We're calling, right? Because there's a lot of emotions that are going on right now after this acute bout of injury. So really, really just helping direct and promote the patient that these are your options. These are the cards. If I was in your shoes, this is probably what I would do. But know that as your tending physical therapist, I'm here to give you the most effective and efficient advice as possible. And understanding and guiding you that this will be an emotional train to ride, right? But we have to take control. Both of us have to take control. So she was focusing on her water intake. She was getting daily movement and getting some cardiovascular training in. She was controlling the swelling in her leg. We relayed the message to her husband, like, okay, you need to actually help her massage the swelling from her foot all the way up to her knee, past her thigh, so we can push it to the heart and direct it towards the heart, which circulates blood around the system, right, around the body, in order for her knee to bend well, right? So all of these external passive things as well as active things, so that she can better manage her situation, right? And then on the other side too, not only like water intake, but okay, We need to stay consistent with our sleep pattern. It's okay to take medicine, Tylenol, ibuprofen as needed, whatever sits well with you. And in the meantime, figuring out, do I want to get surgery? Do I not? If I do get surgery, what type of grafts is it going to be? X, Y, and Z, right? So needless to say, if this athlete/patient of mine waited like a month out, waited 3 months out, without any direction or understanding, like, the steps that kind of occur after a pretty significant acute injury, an ACL tear, she probably right now, as I'm recording this episode, she would probably not be in a good place, to be honest. Right now, as I'm recording this, she is back to running. We're working on plyometric conditioning. She's back to CrossFit classes. We're being selective on some things that she's confidently and capable of doing, right? All while still building strength in that knee and surrounding area, in that leg. So how soon is too soon for physical therapy after an acute injury? It's never too soon, because when it comes down to it, you seek out physical therapy for help for an acute ankle sprain or a knee injury, in this patient's story, ACL tear, that there's a lot of emotion that goes into this. And being taught and relaying the message to these patients that, okay, you're in the driver's seat. This is not too soon for you to take control, right? Because usually what happens if we have an injury of some sort, what do? You're probably thinking, oh yeah, we just sit and rest, ice, elevate, compression, and wait, take medicine, don't go to the gym, don't interact with other people, don't even seek help or even passive treatment. Maybe I'll get a massage, I don't know, right? But no, we need to start thinking differently. Physical therapists are perfectly capable of assessing acute injury, right? We spend the most time with our patients. I was with this patient a good hour and a half because, number one, I had the time. Number two, I wanted to make the time. And number three, she is my athlete. I care for those people. I care for anyone who walks through that door. So you're going to get what you pay for, right? So starting physical therapy as early as you can in the process of sustaining an quote-unquote injury, right? So you can not stay on the bench. So you can not sit at home and watch TV and just put ice on your knee or shoulder. You have to be active in the process, right? Because if you don't take the initiation, yeah, you can heal on your own without any guidance, right? We have YouTube, we have Instagram, we have the social gurus that we follow. But honestly, on that end, you pick your intervention on that part, right? I think you're doing yourself a disservice, because without a licensed professional's guidance, and I'm going to bias, obviously, this is about physical therapy, I don't think one can really, truly get better faster and more effectively and more efficiently without someone in their corner. And I have people in my corner. If something happens, I know who I'm calling for. I got a handful of people in my pocket. I'm going to call my licensed massage therapist, my bodywork therapist. I'm going to call a couple of my physio friends. I'm going to call my best friend who's a clinical psychologist. I'm going to call my other best friend who is a registered nurse, right? I'm going to call on a couple of my nurse practitioner friends. I'm actually going to call on my nurse practitioner that I see for my yearly physical, right? I have everybody's contact. So it's never too soon for physical therapy after an acute injury. because we have to be as active as possible to control the controllables. So we can figure out that pathway that we need to walk down both with the patient and as the patient to help them get better faster, so that they can get back to the gym, so that they can get back to those class routines, so that they can get back to running, so that they can, not be sidelined, so that they can enjoy time with their family. So, hopefully that gives you more perspective. Maybe you are a person right now who's kind of sustained a shoulder issue or an injury or a niggle, and you're like, oh my God, who do I call? I have no idea. Send me a direct message. I'm pretty active on Instagram. I might know someone in your area. If you don't live in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, I might know someone. I have connections around the states. So, yeah. Thank you for joining in, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, and also know that these podcasts are also reposted to the Fortress Physical Therapy YouTube channel. So if your podcast app is messing up, just go to the YouTube, turn me on, and just listen. That's a wrap for today's episode, Function with Purpose podcast. For more information on this episode, please check out the show notes within your podcast app. Be sure to subscribe, like, share, or drop your comments and questions below. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Thanks for the listen. Pursuit, precision, purpose.